Peace and stability is very important to the advancement of science and technology. So as a deterrent to anything that might threaten the peace and stability in the galaxy, the Center for Galaxy Control built a series of war deterrent domes that they scattered here and there on small terrestrial satellite planets within the reach of Zimmnel, small planets like Ob and Lectroi. These planets are mostly small, organic-based planets populated with primitive animal species like Homo erectus and Homo neanderthal, whose brain size seldom ever exceeds 1,000 centimeters. The war domes were usually placed in remote areas high in the mountains of these planets. They have a low profile, so they more or less blend in with the surroundings. Native organic life on these planets seldom ever know that these patrol domes are there. Most of the war deterrent domes were built back in the year marked 5,003,010. That's when the organic-based planet Phignon had a large population of Homo sapiens with a brain size of around 1,800 centimeters. They had developed sufficient technology to travel in near space, so they began plundering weaker neighboring planets for natural resources. This caused a lot of instability around the galaxy. It wasn't a constant year-round problem, however, because the Phignons were superstitious and they decided it was only safe to venture out into space when the planet Zipton, Deflon, and their 3 moons aligned with the planet Orxen. They called it war season, and it lasted about 3 months. But still, it was unsettling to the entire galaxy when the Phignons were out doing their warring and pillaging. Zimmnel was far out of reach of these primitive space travelers, so the planet was not threatened. However, in order to keep peace and stability in the galaxy, the Center for Galaxy Control made a war alliance with all the small organic-based planets that were within reach of Phignon. They offered to build a number of war deterrent domes on or near their planet for protection. The deal was that the organic-based planets had to pay the cost of building these war domes, plus provide sufficient funds and personnel for all the maintenance and upkeep. The Zimmnels would supply the technology and a small contingent of about 400 patrolmen to operate the blaster guns and other sophisticated technical equipment on these war domes. So each year since that arrangement was reached, when war season rolls around, a small contingent of about 350 or so patrolmen are assigned to go to each of these small patrol planet outposts to augment the 50 patrolmen who are permanently stationed there. It's not a dangerous assignment because any fighting that's left to do on the galaxy is mostly done by regular army units. Planet patrolmen are more like part of the diplomatic corps in that they are mostly there to foster better relations between organics and electro-people. The regular army does all the real fighting and peacekeeping from mobile space stations. The war domes are no longer capable of any serious galaxy protection because the equipment is so old and obsolete. That's why most of these old war domes, like the war dome on planet Ob, have been downgraded to planet patrol stations. These war domes serve no useful purpose anymore, but it would cost more to dismantle them than it does to keep them going. They're rather big and full of what is now known to be toxic material. It has been determined that the toxic material shouldn't be disturbed, so they can't just tear them down. And you can't just walk away from these things anymore either. You have to clean up after yourself. It's galaxy law. To the Zimmnellians, the war domes have become a waste of resources. They serve no useful purpose. But to the organic-based planets that they are supposed to be protecting, the war domes are considered vital to their survival. Last year, the War Council on planet Flexton appropriated 17 million yebs for the patrol dome on Ob. They tax the masses and tell them that it is for the continuing battle against the rogue Phignons. The masses on the planet don't know that the planet Phignon is no longer a threat and that the money is spent on space travel and high living for a few well-connected Flextons. The government on these organic-based planets keeps their Homo sapien masses controlled by fear, and what is more fearful than the threat of an invasion? All the money they spend on these patrol domes goes to those with influence and connections. The Zimmnellians tolerate this petty corruption because it's saving them the cost and trouble of dismantling these structures. They don't say anything to the Flextons or the Platons, no matter what they do to these old obsolete war domes. For example, the war dome on Lectroi has become more or less an entertainment compound. It's lost any pretense of being a frontline military post several years ago when Platon installed a bunch of advanced electronic gadgets, computer games, spas, gyms, and things of that nature there. They also brought in enough alcohol to keep any sailor drunk for a millennium. The domes are full of middle-class Homo sapiens from Platon who love to party and carry on. As the Zimmnellian patrolmen, it attracts mostly the low-leb count Zimmnelian patrolmen who use it as a way to serve their military obligation without risking any more than a bad hangover. The patrol dome on Ulm is a different matter. High-leb count intellectual Flextons have taken over the dome. There are still some lower middle-class career warrior Flextons there too, but as they retired, they are being replaced with more sensitive and peace-loving Flextons. As for Zimmnelian patrolmen, it has become more of a duty station for the higher leb count, well-connected electromen who are looking to advance some business opportunity or political career. One such man is Kenom Ornam. His DNA father, Kenom Ornam, head of the Political Readjustment Department, or PRD, on Zimmnel, and also ambassador to the planet Zimmnel, has high political hopes for his son. Kenom has already served his required military time on Zimmnel. He spent 5 months as an intern working with his father at the PRD. But now that Kenom was intent on entering politics, his DNA father insisted he serve real time in the military as a patrolman. To be a politician is almost a requirement that one spend time in the military, defending the great planet Zimmnel with one's life. Setting 2 months in an electrical cubicle watching a computer screen is not considered putting one's life at risk. It doesn't matter that the only risk Kenom was taking by going to Planet Patrol Dome on Ob was the risk of being bored to death. Hypocrisy is as resilient as a cockroach. Politics being politics, Kenom has resigned to spend a few months on Ob as a planet patrolman to please his father and to advance his political career. In order to make the stay halfway tolerable, Kenom talked his lifelong friend Enew into joining him. Enew had already served his military obligation time but felt obligated to Kenom and his father. It was Kenom's father who arranged for him to serve his time at the PDR with Kenom. They shared the same electrical cubicle. Enew was working at the Brain Transfer Unit in Kenom Province, Sector 18, Unit 13. Before that, he was a lone recall agent at the Monetary Retraction Unit in the Department of Finance. He was used to boredom, and being away on another planet for a while seemed like a good deal to him. Besides, he knew Kenom was going places, and he didn't want to be left behind.